Well, hello and welcome to the studios of Bedford Community Television. My name is Ray Chadwick. This show is one of our series to acquaint our viewers with the individuals who make our laws and execute them in Concord, and to give you an idea of how our state government is running. To further that objective, we have here today with us the 82nd governor of the great state of New Hampshire, Governor Chris Sununu. And Governor, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure having you here, sir.
Always great to be here. Over in Bedford, seeing what's going on in the heart of the state.
Nothing but the finest, right in the center. Well, we seem to think so. But anyway, you're now 15 months into your term here. How do you think things are going? Time has gone by. Huh?
It's amazing how fast it goes by.
Yeah,
it really is. Look, I think it's going tremendously well. I think the people of the state think it's going tremendously well. So that's, we've just gotten a lot done.
You're supposed to be the most popular governor in the country right now, right?
The poll numbers are pretty good, but let's not,
let's not focus on that.
Yeah,
let's talk about what you're doing.
Numbers, but look, if I may, I guess the poll numbers are good because we've gotten a lot done.
Yeah,
we really have. I mean, it has been a very fruitful, very productive first year or so here. The 2017 session really started off with our balanced budget.
Right.
We cut business taxes, and yet we're still able to focus some money and some emphasis and funding on the priorities where we've just been lax over the past few years, where we haven't had some of the leadership over the past few years to focus on things like opioids, mental health, kindergarten, early childhood development, early, school and school choice programs. So we're really trying to open doors for folks. And again, we've just been very, very successful. I'm proud to say in the first year, I vetoed one bill, right?
Really?
Because we really worked together. Yeah. I got my hands in with the legislature, working with the Senate, working with the House. Did not get everything we wanted, of course, but we got a lot of it. And we got a lot of bills that weren't exactly where I wanted to see them, but we compromised. We found areas of agreement that we could to make sure we were getting something passed for the people of the state. And that's clearly in direct contrast with what we see out of Washington, right?
Yeah,
There's just a lot of dysfunction down there. They don't get a whole lot done. We do it different here, and we do it in a positive, constructive way. A lot of good pieces of bipartisan legislation. And a little something for everybody out there.
Well, I think you got to keep in mind you're there to better the situation of the state and the people who live here, not just have intramural battles amongst yourselves.
Well, that's what it is. You got to keep the ball moving forward in all these different areas, whether you're talking about healthcare or education, opioids, mental health, areas that really need our attention, really need to be moving forward. And we've tried to be very bold, very innovative, if you will, in terms of how we address this stuff, trying new things. Times are very good in the state right now. We have an immense opportunity with our economy, 2.6% unemployment, fastest growing economy.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. Fastest growing economy in the Northeast, fastest growing population last year in the Northeast.
Really?
Our population grew faster than Massachusetts, right? So we have finally, for the first time in a long time, we have young people, young families looking to move in here. We're really promoting what this state is all about, and we're seeing results already. So the key is to keep that momentum up, right? To keep that positivity up, not to let the negativity of that, national politics, so to say, start dragging us back. I, as a leader, I find that that's one of the foremost obligations that I have to the people of the state is keeping things moving forward in the right way. How you do it is as important as the results that you get.
Right, exactly. If you're not doing it as a team, it's not really working. I mean, it's true on a football field, it's true in organizations, it's true in government, I think. Your background is in engineering. You're an MIT grad, if I got it right.
That's right.
Civil and environmental engineer.
Yeah, I was an environmental engineer for about 10 years. I focused on cleaning up hazardous waste sites, soil and groundwater contamination. That was my thing for years.
So you're the one wearing the yellow suits sometimes?
We used to wear the yellow suits. That's right. Yeah.
How do you think that experience, engineering training, et cetera, working in business?
Well, I don't wear yellow suits anymore.
Well, that's too bad, actually. How does that help you in this role? You've been executive counselor 3 terms, and then governor now for basically 15 months.
I really, the engineering is that's a huge part of it, and I kind of took those skills as an engineer, problem solving, looking at systems, how to do it a little bit better. I took that into my business experience, running Waterville Valley Resort and running that business. Again, trying to challenge yourself how to do things a little differently, a little better. The key that we have before us now is really the opportunity. When times are going good, and they are. In this state, they're going well. It's something to be very proud of. When times are going good, now is actually the time to challenge yourself, to try new things. If you wait until the crisis to be willing to change your system, then you're only reacting to the crisis.
Right.
That's not good for long-term stability in any of the facets of what we deal with at the state. So for the most part, we're really trying to lead by example,
Yes.
Challenge people to challenge themselves, reach out to the stakeholders, to the communities, to the individuals. You want to know what you should be doing in schools? Go talk to the teachers, right? Go talk to the parents.
Right.
They're the stakeholders. They're on the front lines. You want to know what to do with opioids, how to address the funding issues, where the money should go? Go talk to those in recovery. Go talk to the MLADACs that are providing those services to those individuals. That's the only way that you can truly make sure that we're letting people create the policies to drive better outcomes. And that's the real trick of government. Better outcomes for the individual, for the individual family, for the individual business. That's what our goal really needs to be.
Yeah. Now, you were managing Waterville Valley, and it's interesting because, people say, well, big deal, it's a ski area. Okay. But there's a lot more to it.
Oh my gosh, it's such a complex business. Yeah,
talk about that for a second, because you mentioned this to me once before, and I was impressed.
Ski resorts are incredibly complex. A couple things. First off, you need a great team, right? And up in the North Country, sometimes it's hard to find new people to come in. Finding new people that want to come up and make their careers up in the mountains. It takes a certain type of person to want to do that. We had hotels, we had hospitality, we had conference centers, we sold summer recreation, we sold winter recreation, we sold skiing, we sold cross-country skiing, we sold tubing, we sold a little bit of everything. Customer service was always on the forefront, to be sure. But at the end of the day, you could design the best system, have the best team, invest your money exactly as it needed to be invested to create the best product. But if it didn't snow, it didn't snow, right?
Exactly.
It's a high labor business. We had about 800 employees, high energy business. There was a year when I spent over $1 million in electrical costs, which is why I'm so passionate about lowering rates for the people of New Hampshire. So it's like a watch, if you will, because it's a 12-month business. But sometimes certain things move faster than others. Sometimes gears move slowly, sometimes they move quickly. But at the end of the day, they all really need to line up. It's kind of the engineering.
It's like a gear train. It has to mesh.
It is. It's a gear train. Exactly. It has to mesh. But also it takes a little bit of prayer. You need the good Lord to come through for you and provide the good weather. So it's an amazing business, but it's not just a Waterville, but all the resort businesses we have, whether you're talking about the folks out at Hampton Beach, the folks up in the White Mountains, the folks out in the Monadnock region, the farmers that we have here. It can be very tough. It can be very stressful when the key to your revenue is something that's completely out of your control.
Yeah, exactly right.
It gives you a good temperament for politics, probably. You have to learn to control what you can control. Yeah. You have to learn to
fix the things you can fix.
Fix the things you can fix.
Live with what you can't.
You got it. And stay positive. It's okay to get frustrated, but you got to stay positive and move on and keep everything moving forward. Don't get stuck in the quagmire of what you couldn't get done or what didn't happen for you.
Right.
You got to really think about the bigger picture, the long term, and that's really what the combination of being an engineer, running something like a ski resort, it helps with the temperament, if you will, of coming into office, and then hopefully setting that tone for everyone else.
Yeah, well, I ski patrol at Pat's Peak, and I watch the same thing.
Which I love, by the way. I love Pat's.
Great place.
I'm the governor of New Hampshire. I love everybody now. Don't forget to ski Cannon too.
Exactly,
State runs that one.
Exactly right. But I think the key of that whole thing, you mentioned this earlier, it is part of the job of leadership, in my opinion, to sort of look down the road. It's easier to do when times are easy and anticipate the problems coming down the road, because your job really is to get people focused on solving the future problems, before they become today's problems.
Got to think long term.
Yeah.
In a state where everyone, and by the way, we're the only state where the governor, except for Vermont, where the governor has to get elected every 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're always, unfortunately, our elected officials have a tendency, unless you push them hard, have a tendency to think in 2-year chunks.
Right.
We have to think long term. So you can't run the state like a business, because it's not our money, right? It's the people's money.
Of course.
And you need checks and balances. You need to make sure that there's a process there. But you can bring business ideals in terms of long-term strategy, thinking, planning, investment. Those are the ideals that you try to bring to the state level. And when everyone's trying to just do things in short terms and they're thinking about the next election, we've really tried to set a tone of, don't worry about the elections, right? Don't worry about that stuff. Let's get things done, and we've been very successful doing that. And on those successes, we'll be okay in the elections. And again, I think we will be, because there is great success there. We focused on the areas that people really wanted us to focus on. Not just our party or our political agendas, but really about the agenda in terms of the need of the state. So look, it's been very successful. I'm having a ball doing it, a lot of fun. Challenging.
Well, you look like you're having fun.
I do have fun.
Yeah.
But look, it's a challenge, but one of the greatest challenges, I should say one of the best benefits, again, it can be a challenge too, is going out and spending time with people. As governor, one of the hard parts is you hear some tough stories, and that is challenging. You hear stories from parents who have lost kids to opioids, folks that are having trouble getting health care, folks that are having problems with mental illness in their family or their communities. Those are the stories we need to hear to then have, I go back to having the people help create better policy. And it isn't just about throwing money at a problem. Other governors, I think, have traditionally done that. Well, we have a problem, so we'll throw money at it. Funding is fine. And increasing the funding sometimes helps.
If it's effective.
If it's effective. What is the result?
Show
what
me
is the
what you fix with the money.
And what is the outcome you're trying to achieve? Is the outcome you're trying to achieve to go brag that you threw money at a problem? Well, that's not going to help anybody, right? But get a better outcome.
You know, it's unfortunate because it seems to me in a lot of politics, the throwing of money is the surrogate for caring.
Yes.
And it's done, people preen over how much money they've gotten for this or that or everything else, but what's missing often is it being invested? Is it bettering the lives of the people it's intended to help?
That's right.
And
you got to create systems of accountability.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So in terms of outcomes, in terms of financial stability, the state gives a lot of money to nonprofits, which is great. And a lot of these nonprofits are helping folks with opioids issues or homelessness or whatever it might be. But you have to make sure that those organizations are financially stable. They're managing the money well, because a lot of it is the public's money. They're getting outcomes that they expected to get. And if they don't get those outcomes, what's plan B? Right. So what are you going to do to change your model to get the outcomes we all discussed were in the best needs of the state? And I got to be honest, Ray, there's a lot of organizations that aren't quite sure what their outcomes should be. So you have to challenge them. They're still going on presumptions and models from 1995.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world.
Well, some of those models are transaction related. Okay, you know, you just convicted someone of driving while intoxicated. Now he has to go, or she, into a rehab program. So I give them a rehab program. Good. Now I get paid. Who's checking to see if the same person is actually being
Are they slipping back into it? Are they?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, that's one of the things we really launched this week, which is our recovery-friendly workforce. We were talking about this. Recoveryfriendlyworkplace.com, by the way. You should go check out the website. We're really trying to empower employers to be part of this solution, because they have to be.
Well, you did this at Waterville Valley.
We did it at Waterville. Yeah, this is really a more robust version of something I tried at Waterville, where we want the employers to understand the tools and the resources available to them. If an employee comes to them with an issue, or someone wants to get hired that might be in recovery, we want to get those incentivized to get those people back into the workplace, because they want to be in the workplace.
Right.
They want to be in a place that's understanding of maybe what they're going through, and if there is an issue, they want to be able to go to their employer in an open and in a way that doesn't carry stigma with it.
Not feel they have to hide.
Right. You don't want them to hide, because this is a crisis and an issue that affects anybody, regardless of income or zip code or anything. It affects all of us, our families, our communities. So we need to have an all-in-one approach. And you know what we saw is it's profitable. Right? When employers have the tools and the knowledge and are empowered to make the best decisions for them and their employees, you make more money doing it. You can retain that employee for longer. You can bring new employees to the table that maybe you didn't know of before.
Right.
We thought it was going to be a powerful thing locally. It's already taken off nationally. Good. It's really amazing. Rhode Island has kind of joined us. We have some national employers, Walmart and a few others that are getting on board. They love the concept. They're seeing the issue. Right? They're not doing it out of social welfare. I mean, there's an aspect to that, of course, but they're really doing it because they see it in their workplaces every day. They want to know how to create better solutions for the long term for themselves and those employees. So very exciting. I'm very, very proud of the program, something that I say, and it's true, I kind of came up with it in the shower one day, and I was thinking, how do I just get better results for my employees, better results for my business? That's all it was. And then you kind of engineer a solution based on the outcomes that you're looking for. If I may, Ray, for too long, one thing I found as being governor, we focus on the institutions here. We focus on putting money into the institutions that have been around a long time.
What do you mean
those
by
are great.
Institutions?
Look, it could be we focus on, instead of letting individuals have choice, individual business, individual students have choice with how they're going to spend their money, the best pathway for them. We focus on putting money on, just to talk about education, we throw it all at the university system. And that's fine. The university system is wonderful. But instead of putting the money at the university system, in terms of scholarships, these scholarships will let you go to that institution. Why don't we tell the parents and the individuals, these scholarships will allow you to create the pathway that best allows you to be into the workforce that you want.
Yourself. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Allow the individual to have the power. So we're not pulling any money out of the system. We're just changing the focus and letting the individual have that power. Now, we have great institutions here. I don't want people to misunderstand, but we're trying to focus on the outcomes.
Yeah.
What outcome do you want? And based on that, we'll find the best system and challenge ourselves to maybe even change the system to get that outcome for that individual, family, or business. That's the fundamental change.
But you said to focus on the outcome you want. To me, this issue it's outcome focused. Sure, we agree 1,000%. But it's not the outcome I think you should want. It's the outcome you should want or you do want.
Right.
So it sounds to me like you've got the philosophy called let's focus more on individuals. Let them make the choices, and make the choices they make the guideline for how institutions and organizations should be more serving to them.
Let me give you a quick example if I could. So I went out and I asked all the public and private universities, the community colleges, I said, give me a list of all the degrees that we give every single year. How many nursing degrees do we give? How many education degrees do we give? How many history degrees do we give in our college and community college system? And the first thing they said is, why do you want to see that?
Excellent.
I was a little surprised at that, but I said, look, because we're going to bring some folks in, some specialists that say, look, in the next 5, 10, and 20 years, New Hampshire's needs will be this. We will need this many nurses and this many tech workers and this many computer coders and whatever it might be.
Right.
So we should be looking now to challenge ourselves, to change the system, not break down the institutions, but asking the institutions to say, if that's the outcome we want for our workforce, let's make sure that we're graduating with the degrees that how we're structuring it.
Right.
And I think that's some people see that as threatening, but look, it's just getting better results for New Hampshire. That's what it's about. Yeah. And some tough decisions will have to be made, but let's all get on the same page. There's nothing political about any of this.
Right.
Let's simply get on the same page for the best results. And if those are the job opportunities, the careers of tomorrow, let's make sure we're building a system to meet those needs for both our citizens so we can retain those young workers and our businesses that are going to have those needs in the future.
Right, exactly right. Yeah. I think this is all, I'm a great advocate of a guy named W. Edwards Deming, and he was the inventor of total quality management, was pretty much a hero in Japan after the war and somewhat reviled here. But part of his philosophy is if you go straight towards improving quality as your prime focus, better results, more consistent results, all the rest, profitability, sales, etc., will flow from
will follow
that.
right on.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And this sounds exactly what
Pure
you're trying to do.
market dynamics.
Yeah, exactly.
Create a better product and the market will reward you.
Yeah.
And reward the entire community in turn because we are so community focused here, right? We don't rely on big government here in the state to solve all of our problems. But the government does, and the responsibility I see, especially as governor, is to provide that leadership, provide the focus, help identify those priorities based on what we're hearing out there are the real needs of the communities.
Right.
And then making sure that the legislature, translating that to the legislature and saying, look, maybe these are programs traditionally we didn't look at, but here's a return on that investment.
Sure.
People wonder why were you so passionate about full-day kindergarten? I'm passionate about full-day kindergarten and a lot of early childhood prevention programs and programs that can help with early childhood development. Because I believe that when you invest the dollars today with kids, you save 10 times down the road. That's the fiscal conservative in me.
Right.
Never mind, it's just the right thing to do. You make those investments today and the indirect benefits you see down the road by giving those kids opportunity and hope and possibilities they didn't even expect or know that were available to them or their parents. Make those opportunities available to them now and everything follows along with it. So again, it's a way to make those early investments. It might not be traditional thinking, but it's really something we've been able to bring the legislature on board with, get some bipartisan things done, and I think really make the investment for the long term.
No, that's all excellent work. There's no doubt about it. Let's come back to the opioid crisis, which has been a hallmark of, well, not just New Hampshire, but often pointed out that we're among the front runners in this problem.
Nationally, it's a common story, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's, that's the unfortunate part of this. And, you know, I do see, you know, drug interdiction being part of it, you know, more border security and all those things. What specifically are we doing in state? You mentioned the workplace recovery projects.
Recovery Friendly Workplaces is a program we just launched. I'm a big believer that, look, you can talk about recovery, treatment, interdiction, and enforcement. At the end of the day, if you think about it, all those programs are coming after the crisis.
Exactly.
Right?
The remediation.
Prevention is the key, and we don't have core prevention programs in the state up to where they are now. We've made huge strides. We're having, hopefully, I think by this September, we'll have another release of some core programs, especially for really the 6th to 12th graders in the state, and then the school districts can kind of build on top of that. But we have to start really talking aggressively about this, more peer-to-peer interaction within schools, more core curriculum, and addressing the issue, well, not just through public service announcements, but with programming that is being given to the students, again, written by students. I mean, let the students talk to each other. They know how to talk to each other. And also through medium that they use. So in other words, you can put television commercials all day long, but if they're not watching TV, what's the point? Right? So use digital media, use targeted efforts that can really have the biggest and best impact there. We doubled the alcohol fund from 1.7 to 3.4%. That puts some real money. We've advocated in Washington very strongly for some more funds to be put in. One of the other things we've really focused on here, it's making sure that there's, again, accountability in those systems. So we've had some other nonprofits that have been around for a long time. They're not with us anymore. And they were great groups, but through a variety of reasons, like Serenity Place is a great example. Well, for 30 years, Serenity Place was out there working hard, saving lives. They're not with us because of some bad management, frankly. So we need to make sure that there's accountability in the system. The folks that we're making those investments with, that they understand their fiduciary responsibilities. They're getting the outcomes we want. Safe Stations is a great program, but let's remember, Safe Stations was never designed to be the long-term solution.
No.
So we're trying to get aggressive about more access points, especially in rural areas. Gives better. Should someone from COAS have to come down to Manchester and Bedford to get the best treatment? No. So we want to get those points of those access points drastically increased in rural communities. It helps women step up. A lot of times, women are the least likely to ask for help when facing addiction because they don't want to get pulled from their kids and their communities.
And they know they will be.
And they know they will be. So if we can provide those access points of treatment in their community, they're much more likely to come forward and ask for that help. And then you provide a continuum where they aren't just getting treatment and then we say, so long, farewell, good luck. We provide treatment, we provide job training programs, we provide this recovery-friendly workplace. So there's a continuum of getting them kind of back into, quote unquote, a normal lifestyle, back into the lifestyle they're looking for, back into that sense of self-worth. And they can really focus on their lives and their families once again as they kind of, we know recovery, it can be a long time. People can be battling their addictions for a while. So we need to make sure our programs are there for a while. 28 days, that doesn't cut it.
It's not going to work.
Oh my gosh, that concept was invented in the 40s before anyone knew what an opioid was. So let's make sure that our programs are advancing and evolving with the needs of those that need the services.
Well, I think the establishment of SelfWorth again, or resurgence of that, is the key, because it seems to me that your sense of self is what keeps you on, quote, the right path, end quote.
Absolutely.
And if you're sort of straying off, as soon as you get there, if you don't have someone willing to help you move forward back, then it's tough to do.
Now, Ray, look what's happening with kids, right? So when it comes to undiagnosed mental illness, kids coping in schools with drugs or whatever it might be, when they hit that point of crisis, when they hit that point of a lack of self-worth, no one's there to help me. We see that manifest in some very tragic ways. We saw it down in Florida and schools all across the country. Right now, today, we do not have youth treatment services for opioid addiction in this state. We don't have it.
Really?
And I said enough is enough. And come July 1, we're opening it at the Sununu Center. The first 32 beds will finally be available. We've been under construction for about 6 months now. The first 32 beds will be available for the only youth addiction services in the state. So we got to again, that's part of the
32
prevention.
beds isn't a lot. That's
it
a
isn't
start.
a lot. It's a start. But boy, To think
Well,
we had
I mean,
none.
it's a start, right? Yeah.
And I don't know what people were doing for the past 4 or 5 years, but I said enough is enough.
Yeah, really.
You got to really attack this really from that perspective. We've made great strides last year. When we had extra money, first 6 months as governor, we really managed this budget tight, really tight,
right.
and we were able to save a lot of money.
You filled up the rainy day fund.
We filled
reduced taxes. Reduce some regulations.
And then we took the extra money and we sent every city and town a check for roads and bridges.
Right.
Every single city and town in this state, for the first time ever, got a check to offset property, what otherwise would have been property taxes, a potential property tax increase, to do the roads and bridges in their communities, the city and town roads. Then when we found out we had even a little more than we anticipated after we filled the rainy day fund, we sent $20 million directly, every dollar extra we had, about $19.5 million. A year ago, not even in just response to Parkland, but a year ago we said safe schools. That's what this is about. And so the legislation that was passed quite a long time ago that I think probably about a year ago now, I said all that money needs to go to schools for lockdown doors, surveillance systems, emergency plans, all of these things to simply make the infrastructure that we send our kids to every day safer.
Right.
Now, there's a lot more to do. That's just one piece of the puzzle. We have to keep making those investments. We have to address undiagnosed mental health. We have to get a system that when there's a red flag that we actually have action behind it. That was one of the crises in Florida, all these red flags. And
nobody did anything. Yep.
That's the tragedy of Florida, right?
Massive tragedy.
Yeah, so we can't let that happen. Now,
Florida actually has a law that allows you or the police to arrest anyone who engages in criminal threatening or is identified as a potential threat, arrest them and confiscate weapons. None of that was done.
None of it was done.
There's a series of reasons why, but none of it was done. It's fascinating the failures of government to
at all
protect
levels.
These kids. And the second question, and you mentioned this, security is an issue. I mean, you can't get into an airport without going through a metal detector. You get on a plane, there's people on there who you don't know who they are, but potentially are there to guard
been screened.
Security and been screened. So there's a whole series of things, I think, that are reasonable and appropriate responses to security in schools.
So we've set up a task force, and this isn't a task force that is designed to go out for years or anything. I don't have patience or time for that. We basically set up a 90-day task force, and we brought in teachers, we brought in parents, we brought in local officials, we brought in the fire department, first responders, police, all of them. And we put everything on the table, no politics, just good ideas on the table. I brought in a list of about 7 or 8 recommendations that I had, things that I thought they should at least look at. And so they're creating their working groups. Another working group met last night. In the next month or two, we'll have some real, not just ideas, we have the ideas, but hopefully the pathway to implement some of these things in a safe and reasonable manner, something within the constructs of the kind of the New Hampshire way, we'll say. And so I'm very confident that we're going to be able to move forward in a very positive way in a variety of different areas, not just this year, but even next year. And we'll continue this because this is something we've let become lax. We've really, across the country, we've really let this bucket get empty in terms of providing programs in the right prevention services, whatever you might want to call it. Working with enforcement, working with mental health providers, really providing those support structures so we don't get into those. The kids that have problems don't become kids in crisis. That's really the goal.
Well, start early, do it. That's another quality ethic from Deming. Invest your money in prevention as opposed to cleaning up after the problems occur.
Because we see the cost.
Yeah,
think of the
exactly.
cost.
But it is a cost benefit.
It's a massive cost. I mean, there's a return on that investment.
Aside from just the minimizing disruption of lives and the safety and all those other benefits that come out of it. The way to go.
I mean, look, we've been very fortunate in this state. We haven't had a school shooting crisis, but we know that could come at any time. No one is immune from that. We shouldn't fool ourselves.
I agree.
So we have some folks in the state that work, again, directly with schools today. They're out there today working with schools on their emergency plans. What technologies can we put in a school to provide communication systems if a crisis were to happen? How are we going to respond? What services are in the schools today, whether they are resource officers for security, whether they're mental health professionals to help with the guidance counselors, kids that need that support structure. what support services are we providing? That's where we need to be. And again, I think we've done a great job so far. We really have. But anything could happen at any time. We know that. Sure. And there's nothing political about that. Yeah. But it's our job to make sure that we're making those investments today. So God forbid, if and when there were a crisis, we're prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way it has to be done. Tell me a bit about Governor for a Day.
Oh, Governor
what
for a
is
Day.
That
Boy,
sounds
exciting.
Intriguing.
So,
where do I sign up?
Well, unfortunately, you can't be governor for a day. Sorry, because you're not a young lady. So what we're doing is we came up with an idea to celebrate Women's History Month. We came up with an idea to allow young women to write an essay of 250 words or less, and you can go on to the state website, the governor's website, and you can download all the information. But we're allowing young women to come forward and write what would they do, what would they do, and what would they want to do if they were governor for a day. And then there'll be essays. They're only 250 word essays, so they're not too big. And we'll go through them, and I think there's a little committee set up. We'll pick a winner, and then we'll do governor for a day, and we'll do it. I mean, we'll put her to work. So
really,
but look. It's a fun job. It really is. You get to go out and talk to a lot of folks, and I'm excited because I have no doubt I'm going to learn something.
Sure.
Right? I have no doubt these and some of the folks the initial essays. We had a bunch come in even as early as last night. People are sending stuff to the State House as early as this morning. It was unbelievable with the response we got, and amazing stuff. I mean, amazing ideas that are out there. There's so much opportunity. There's so much to tap into this younger generation that's really valuable. And so it's a great opportunity for us too. A fresh perspective. A great way to honor Women's History Month, and a great way to bring some new ideas to the State House.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
So let's go back a year and a half or two ago. What actually went through your mind when you said, I think I'll go run for governor? What did you want to get done?
Boy, that was a long time ago.
I know, it was, right?
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, not three, maybe, I think around 3 years ago, in early 2015, not early, but spring of 2015.
Yeah, right.
I was running my business. I was not thrilled with what was happening in the public schools. I felt like, as a good business leader in the state, who was trying to be very responsible in terms of the environment and labor law and all that, we still were facing this quagmire of bureaucracy.
Right.
And I said, my goodness, if we have the resources and we're having this much trouble, imagine what the little guy is having trouble with, right? The guy that owns the pizza shop or the flower shop down the street. And so, the regulatory burdens in the live free or die state, it wasn't very live free or die, right?
It's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't quite, I say it all the time, those 4 words are not just 4 words on a license plate, right? It is the motto that we have to live by, it's our brand, if you will, with our families, with our businesses. So I just really felt like the state needed leadership, and I know when you have someone in the position of the corner office that can be bold, doesn't mind being really challenging themselves and challenging others, throwing the politics aside just to get things done, I believe that there's a lot of opportunity there to just better the state. And again, we've seen it on the business side of things. We're absolutely booming. We created this. Finally, for the first time, we have a one-stop shop for businesses in the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Taylor Caswell leads that. We brought economic development out of a quagmire of bureaucracy, focused on it, and we're seeing the results. We see businesses coming in left and right. We're getting people back into the workforce. We're seeing an increase in population. Things are really moving. Regulatory reform, most comprehensive regulatory reform the state has ever seen, is being debated in the legislature right now. I'm very proud of that. It doesn't mean I can get everything I want, but we'll get there, and we'll start the ball rolling in that direction, really freeing things up. So those are the fundamentals. And then my kids, right? I wasn't thrilled with what was happening in the schools. And we've tried homeschooling. We've tried public schools. We've tried Catholic schools. So we're open to everything. We tried a charter school, but we got waitlisted. Didn't get in there. But that's okay.
Was that before or after you were elected here?
It was when I was an executive council. But it's a fair system.
It's a fair system.
And it should be. I'm a big believer in the rules. I don't want to say to a fault, but I really believe everyone has to follow the rules. Now, if you don't like the rules, well, we have a legislature and a process to change the laws, and there's a fair and equal process there with great representation to the people. But until that happens, you got to follow the rules. You got to play by them. And so, again, my job, I feel, is to kind of empower people, hopefully give people a little bit of leadership and inspire them a little bit to challenge themselves. To see what we can do next, right? Plan for not just tomorrow, but the 20 years of tomorrows that we have ahead of us.
Right. Let's spend a moment talking about regulatory reform, because a lot of time that's brought up, particularly by individuals think government ought to be a little less intrusive. And there's a counter narrative that goes along with, well, all you want to do is eliminate safety things, et cetera, et cetera. Could you give us a couple of examples of the types of things that are really not moving safety forward or other things, but just sort of getting in the way, bureaucracy kind of
to deal
things?
with the crux of it, obviously you need structure. You need to make sure things are safe. But we've let the bureaucracy really take over, and it's a quagmire. For example, we're trying to drive more workforce housing in here. You know, so a teacher or a young engineer or 20-something can afford to buy a house.
Right.
We don't have that opportunity right now. So, or even rent an apartment.
Sure.
So what I found was folks were willing to, there's a lot of capital out there, they want to invest their capital in housing, but they were very hesitant to do it in New Hampshire because permits take 3 years. You're stuck in 3 years of maybe, this gray area.
Right.
The bureaucracy will never truly understand the value of certainty. Right? It's actually more valuable to an investor to get within 90 days a
yes
no.
Or a no. Right.
Yes, or hopefully it's a yes, but even a no,
Sure.
then 3 years of a quagmire where you got to pay lawyers just to keep your project alive to maybe get to a yes, but likely get to a no.
Right.
We have become, and I think until now, a state where no was the default. You want a permit? Well, the answer is no unless you prove it to us.
Right.
No. Yes is the default. You have a project. Let me see how within the constructs of our rules we can make this happen. That's a whole different change in mindset that we're going after. And so we want to shorten the permit process on things. I had a lovely woman who has a business. She lives over on the seacoast. She has a franchise business, but it's all in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. I said, well, why not here? Why aren't you here? She said, well, my employees, it's so hard to get reciprocity to get their license to practice here in New Hampshire. It's not worth the time.
Right.
That's a problem, right? We're trying to drive workforce and opportunity, but we have licensing issues. Now, I don't believe in just getting rid of licenses, but you can streamline the process. You can come in and say, look, on day one, you can start working, and over the next 45 days, you get your full-time license and whatnot. So there's ways to break down those barriers, and we've just let bureaucracy reign. I say no more. I say we're going to put people first. We're going to put businesses first. We're going to be a state of yes. You know, and we're going to be environmentally responsible. We're going to be conscientious of safety issues, conscientious of issues of competition. But at the same time, we can make huge strides to move these balls forward and actually be truly the live free or die state.
Yeah, and attract people from all around the Northeast.
Absolutely. We've got a great product here. We just got to go sell it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to me if you can be certified in one state, you know, and it's not like Massachusetts, to pick an example. You know, if they have a certification, that ought to be pretty much good enough for us.
Well,
wouldn't you
pretty
think?
much, yeah.
I mean,
to your point, it should get you 90% of the way
exactly.
there. There might be a few things with our rules that people have to understand. I have an occupational therapist. She was an occupational therapist for 10 years here in New Hampshire. She stopped being an occupational therapist, started to raise her family, and then came back 7, 8 years later to get her license again. And she knew there's a process you got to go through, of course. 7 months. 7 months and 4 times to the licensing board and, you know, taking the tests, and that's all fine. Taking the tests are fine. But should she be strung out for 7 months when she's actually had a license before?
Yeah.
And she's following every rule there is, but they keep asking for more information and more this and more that. That's not right, right? We got to give people certainty, because at some point she's going to say, enough. I live on the seacoast. I'll just go work in Massachusetts, because they'll do it in 45 days.
Yeah, exactly right.
So we got to be smarter about how we're approaching this. We got to put people first.
Yeah, and get more of them coming here.
Get more of them coming here.
Keep the economy going.
And then when you do that, it goes back to the analogy you made. Like when you focus on quality, the profits and everything will follow that when you're creating a product.
Yeah.
When you put people first, when you put customer service first, the workforce, the families, the businesses, they will go where, I mean, people can be so mobile now. So we're not just competing with will the business be in here or Massachusetts like we did in the 80s.
No.
A company in California will just as easily pick up and move to New Hampshire as they would to Nevada or Texas, or a company overseas, or a company in Quebec, a manufacturer up in Canada that wants to be part of the new Buy America provisions because they're selling here in the United States. They'll move their company right down here into northern New Hampshire, create great manufacturing jobs for us.
Exactly.
You got to go get it. I was the first governor in 8 years to go to Quebec and visit and say, Look at
You're
all
kidding.
the first governor in 8 years. They're our #1 training partner. No
I was
governor
gonna
had
say,
gone.
it's right up the road.
I don't know what was going on here, Ray. I mean, I'm not trying to bash the previous administrations, but I will tell you there was a lot of things just not being done. We're always going to be pretty good, right? We're a state with no sales tax and no income tax, and we're local control. Those are great fundamentals that'll always make us pretty good. And I think leadership can coast on that sometimes, but I don't believe in it, right? I believe in pushing ourselves to be
building
the gold standard,
Yeah.
right? To be the model of best practices for the rest of the country. Within the first 60 days, I went to Quebec. I met with 50, 60 companies that were looking to come to the United States. They weren't really considering New Hampshire, but I tell you, by the time we left, they were. We've already brought a few in, which is great. So we're making great strides. Some of this stuff you're not going to see the results for a couple of years, right? You go see a business with 400 employees, they can't pick up and move tomorrow.
Right.
We get that. But we got to be in front of them. We got to keep working and building good teams that can carry that message of what we're doing here, the positivity that we have.
Yeah.
Reach across borders, reach out of our traditional comfort zones. Because if we don't, somebody else will.
That's right.
And it's a competitive world.
Yeah.
We do a lot of job fairs. George Competitiveness, the Commissioner of Employment Security, that guy is really fantastic in a whole variety of ways. I love you, George. They do job fairs all across the state.
Right.
And I said to him, George, when we hear of a company closing in New York or Virginia or Pennsylvania, maybe they manufacture widgets, whatever it might be.
Whatever it be.
We hear that company's closing, that's where we should go do the job fair.
Yeah.
Because guess what? We probably have a company that makes widgets too, and we need their employees, so let's go get them.
Right.
And what better time to take advantage of bringing a new family in than when they're going through the tough loss or the crisis of losing a job?
It's a relocation anyway.
It's a relocation.
They might as well come here.
Here's a great opportunity.
Sure.
And we have a great quality of life, a great education system. We have all these benefits. Great time to go grab them. So it sounds obvious to you and me because we live in the private sector for the most part.
Exactly.
And so these are kind of the private sector mentality, the private sector.
Well, you got to compete.
You got to compete.
You got to compete.
You got to compete. Because let me tell you, people are competing with us, right?
There's
and
no
so
doubt.
I'm just tired of losing businesses. I'm tired of losing population. We've made huge strides. We've turned that corner in 2017. We got to keep that momentum going for 18 and 19 and 20. Still some work to do, to be sure. But the fact we can have such a robust economy, the lowest poverty rate in the country, all in spite of the drug crisis, right?
Sure,
Means we're really doing something right.
Yeah.
Now, we got to attack the opioid crisis. We got to attack homelessness, issues with abused children, things of that nature. Those are the types of issues where I say all the time, one is too many.
Right.
One is too many.
Right.
So we got to keep that fight up. Now's the time to create the systems and the structure to address those things long term.
Yeah, we've assembled quite a team, and I'm looking at people like Adelwood and Arlinghouse and all the rest.
Ken Merrifield is now the head of labor.
Exactly.
Taylor Caswell runs the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. We have a new Attorney General in Gordon MacDonald, who's just been an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he's been excellent.
Yeah, we've brought in some new judges. We've really had a great opportunity to bring and comprise a new team, not because the old commissioners weren't doing it right, but to put some after you do anything, you do the show enough, you get blinders on, right? You do anything in life enough, it's human nature. You just put blinders on. Well, this is the way we do it. Sometimes you got to bring that fresh set of eyes. Yeah. Take a step back a little bit. Sometimes you got to take a step back to see 3 or 4 steps forward and open opportunities, not just for your leadership team, but hopefully for those. The employees, the bureaucracies that a lot of them are managing, open their eyes. Right. Allow those employees to be empowered and responsible for their decision making. And when you do that, I just believe great things can come.
Yeah, well, you need new people, because otherwise you have, we always did it that way. Why? Well, we always did it that way.
Boy, do we hear that a lot in government.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people learn pretty quickly. I don't accept any of that when they come in.
And that's what's needed. Because frankly, we mentioned competitiveness. And I don't think many people think that competitiveness exists between municipalities and states and countries, of course, we know. So I think, the approach you're bringing to this whole thing is exactly what
Look at the Amazon proposal, right? I mean, that was a great example.
Did a lot of work on that.
We did a lot of work. Look, we knew it was a long shot, of course.
Right, of course.
But what we were really trying to do is the exercise and create a tool for ourselves. That Amazon proposal has become the most comprehensive economic development plan for the state's ever put together.
Sure.
It's been a great tool for us to hand to any company.
Yeah.
And what you saw there was a national example of cities and states fighting for these companies.
They're still fighting, by the way.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
still fighting. And look, we did it with no gimmicks, right? We didn't go to gimmicks. We just went to our core fundamentals here in New Hampshire. And in doing so, I think we've really woken up a lot of other businesses that are looking to move somewhere. Well, guess what? They're looking here now.
Yeah.
And where we have the right team in place to go out, grab those opportunities, and create the opportunities not for me and you,
Yeah.
but for the people of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
For all 1.3 million people in this state that
And
really
the people
rely
who
on
might move
good
here
quality.
for a better opportunity at life and a better quality.
Of course they
which
will.
is really
Especially young families.
Sure.
You know, millennials and the Generation Z crowd, they tend to be much more willing to be transient.
Yeah.
To explore those opportunities.
Right.
Well, let's open their eyes to them.
Yeah.
Create the opportunities to start with,
Yep.
and then go show them what might be possible.
Yeah, nice job on that. And like you say, once you put the plan together or that proposal together, take it off and use it again and
We
again
use it
and
again and again and
Exactly.
again.
But the key is to prep for it and do the work up front.
That's right.
Yeah, that
That's
was
right.
very well done.
Yeah.
Very well done. Well, I tell you what, time is flying by, and I know
It
you've
is.
got a
Holy
lot of
smokes,
things
it
on
is.
your schedule.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
thank
I'm
you for
going to
having me.
propose here, we do spend a couple minutes and summarize what you've done, what you're looking
look,
to
thanks-
do,
thank you.
and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really look. I think we've done a great job in getting things done for the state of New Hampshire. 2017, we've gotten more major legislation passed than ever before, and that's something we should all be proud of.
Yep.
We did it in a positive, constructive, bipartisan way. We've achieved great results, and because we focused on the outcomes. We looked at designing systems and trying new things to simply get better outcomes. We focused on kids. We focused on kindergarten. We focused on education. We focused on prevention services. We focused on not just putting more money to a problem, but putting more money in areas where we could simply get better results.
Right.
And I'm just incredibly proud, not just of it's not about me, it's really about the teams we've put together and working with the legislature, working with these new commissioners, trying new things, challenging ourselves, and really being an example, not letting the dysfunction of Washington drag us down or define us. We're different in New Hampshire.
Right.
And I'm just so proud of the team we've had. We've got a lot of momentum. We've got to keep it going. We still have a lot of things to do. So I'm excited about the next legislative session in 2019, 2020. Can't take anything for granted. We got to get through the election cycle, of
Sure.
course. But again, that ugliness you see out there, we're not going to let that define us. We're going to stay positive. We're going to stay focused on issues and really attack the next legislative session, putting the priorities of New Hampshire first.
Yep. Well, goals, teamwork, and positivity always win.
Look, it's not just rhetoric. It
No.
really works. It is a
Well, people see
recipe of
that.
success.
People
Yeah.
see it. They can tell whether it's just talk or whether there's
You gotta be
mind share
genuine.
behind it. Yes.
In anything you do in life, you've got to be genuine. You've got to have passion. You've got to have the energy and the fire. And obviously, you can tell I got a little energy.
Yep.
I do. Because I've seen the results that we've gotten. I've seen our successes. And how can that not get you excited about taking on the next challenge, finding the next success, meeting the next family to tell their story, to change a policy and get better results? That's what it's all about.
Everybody wants to be on the winning team.
And we got one. We definitely
Excellent.
got one. Thank
Governor,
you so much.
thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you,
It's
Ray.
really
This
been a pleasure
this has been
as
great.
always, and I
I
hope
could do
to have
another
you back
hour.
again. Unfortunately, your next appointment won't agree with that.
There you go.
So anyway, well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for watching today. Have a good day.